and welcome to week 7 of English 210. This week you have an essay due, and I will spend the majority of my time here explaining that essay to you. But I need you to actually read the lesson. The lesson really does a good job, in my opinion, explaining what the expectations are with the essay, the difference between primary and secondary sources. These are two terms that you will have to understand in order to complete the essay, and basically how to find peer-reviewed scholarly sources. All right, but this video, I will do some brief explanations about everything that's due. So, of course, as always, go to the content section of your classroom. Click on week 7, the research project. You have a number of readings and resources here. I'm going to go ahead and show you. All of these are actually located in the assignment. The only one that is not would be the MLA style guide, and that you can find within the library. It just gives you some help with formatting your essay, with how to reference your sources, and so on and so forth. So let's go back here. All right, so what you'll be reading this week depends on what you have chosen to write about for your assignment. So let's just briefly go through the lesson, and I'm going to take this into student mode. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the lesson. Just one moment. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to briefly go through some of this with you. So when you write a research essay, a lot of students I've found in the past approach it incorrectly. That is, they come up with the thesis, they come up with the outline prior to actually doing the research. The point of research is for you to let the reader know what sort of ideas there are out there. And of course, you're going to make an assertion, but you're going to back that up with experts. Now, if you write your essay prior to putting the research in, it's just going to sound like filler. It's going to be of no use to your reader or to you. You need to read your research before you complete your essay. And that's what this assignment is trying to get you to do. It's trying to get you to read the research before you decide to write your essay. And so the main focus for this assignment is actually your secondary sources. All right, so let's move on, and I'm going to explain what secondary sources are. So primary sources are mainly the literary sources that you've been reading all the semester. So that would be Macbeth, or that would be The Importance of Being Earnest. Those are primary sources. All right. Secondary sources are sources that discuss the primary sources. So these would be your scholarly articles that focus on these primary sources. Okay. So your focus then this week will be on these secondary sources and how they give you a better interpretation of the primary source. All right. But this video explains what I mean by this, so I would watch the video if I were you, of course. All right, so this next slide discusses the peer review process. In a nutshell, scholarly sources are written by experts in the field, and then they're checked for accuracy by additional experts. Those are the kind of sources you should be using when your assignments call for academic or scholarly sources. Okay. All right, so that's basically what the lesson is. I do want you to read through it more carefully. I just did a brief overview, but really I feel like the lesson this week especially is important for you to understand the assignment. So don't just gloss over it. All right, so there is not a discussion forum due this week. I want you to focus on the assignment. And so I did explain to you what a primary and secondary source is. Remember, the primary source is the work of literature. The secondary source is the scholarly source that discusses the primary source. Okay, you're going to use both, analyze both That is, you have to read them, of course. You have to think beyond the surface. Don't just tell me what they say. You have to think of something. What is your viewpoint of what these sources are saying? So go a little bit deeper than just summary. And that goes along with evaluation. Okay, so you're going to evaluate what the secondary source says in terms of the primary source and then bring it together. And that's going to be the focus of your essay. Now, I would say that if you use a secondary source and you don't agree with what it says, that's fine too. So you can bring in the primary source, discuss the secondary source, and then discuss how it's wrong by using the primary source as proof. So let's say you have a source from The Importance of Being Earnest. So you're going to discuss the importance of being earnest, discuss what the secondary source says about the importance of being earnest, and then you're going to use the primary source to either back up what the secondary source says or disagree with that primary source. All right? So all submissions need to have the assigned secondary source in addition to the primary text. So I'm going to pull these secondary sources up in a moment, these secondary academic scholarly sources. You have to actually use these sources. I don't want to see just random in-text citations that really do not actually come from the source. I want you to actually use that source in your essay. I really want you to read the secondary sources and use them actively in your essay. Your essay must be 1,000 to 1,200 words long. I know that sounds super long, but it really isn't. Think of your short story assignment and how short that was, a short story assignment for a short essay. It's actually 2 times the length of that. So it really, in my view, it's not really that long. It sounds like a lot of words, but it's really not. You can't use other sources or other assignments for this particular source, and you have to use MLA format. Remember, I showed you the MLA guide in the library. You have to use that, okay? So let's look at the topic choices. So the topic choices have these links within them. You use these links to back up your discussion. So let's say you're using the uneasy evolution and Marcia Ray's work. So the uneasy evolution would be right here. When you click on the link, you should be able to pull this up. And then let's take away this cookie thing. And then when you need to cite it, just go ahead and click on cite, and then you can just cut and paste this into your essay. But I want you to actually read it. Yeah, it's kind of tricky. It's not the easiest article in the world, but that's what scholarly sources are. They're not easy. They're actually can be a little bit difficult. The wording can be a little bit tough, but it does go really into the play, and so it really does a lot of critical thinking. It gives you some critical information about the essay. So it's interesting, but it is not something that you can just whip through, okay? So you do need to read this, and then you also need to read the journal article from Marcia Ray. So just download the article, and then you can read it at your leisure. But it is a little bit long. It's 26 pages, but it does give you a great overview of My Fair Lady and some of the issues within it. So if you choose to write about this one, you use these two to discuss the changes that were made from Pygmalion to My Fair Lady. And so this is a question that if you are familiar with My Fair Lady, then you can use this one. All right. So basically, you just have this week to read these two articles and then write about this comparison if you choose this question. All right, if you choose this one using the importance of being earnest, I want you to use Harold Bloom's How to Write about Oscar Wilde. And then there should be a section, well, there is a section, excuse me, about the importance of being earnest. So I want you to read this particular section. It's written by Harold Bloom, a great literary critic. And then I also want you to use one more source, okay? And then I just want you to write about it, come up with a thesis statement about what Harold Bloom had right, and connect it to your other research source. And then you can use the importance of being earnest within that discussion to kind of connect his ideas to the play and to the other source you find. And in a few moments, I'll show you how to look up sources. And so the same thing is with Taming of the Shrew. So let's pull up how to write about Shakespeare and comedies. And I believe it's this article right here. Well, let me pull it up again. While it's pulling up. So basically it's the same thing again. You're going to use Taming of the Shrew, and then you're going to use this article right here, The Taming of the Shrew discussion by Harold Bloom, and one other source. And you're going to connect these two sources, and you're going to come up with a thesis statement that discusses Taming of the Shrew based on what your findings were in Bloom and the other peer-reviewed source. The same thing with Richard III, and the same thing with Macbeth. So you have 4 options here. You can write about the importance of being earnest, Pygmalion, Taming of the Shrew, Richard III, or Macbeth. You're going to use these links that are within the assignment questions, and you're going to find another source if applicable, and you're going to use both sources to discuss the play. That's basically it. I know it seems difficult, but it's really not. Your focus is those secondary sources. You have to read them and then connect them to the play. All right? So basically, your sources are going to write your essay for you. Basically. And you're just going to come up with a thesis statement about what the sources said. I hope that makes sense. I'm not sure if it does, but if not, please let me know in the forums. Now, one more thing, because I know I'm talking a lot today, but I want to show you a great place to find sources within the library. So click on the library, click on the A through Z list, and here are some great places to find sources. You have Academic Search Premier, you have ProQuest, which is another great source, and then you have JSTOR, which is one that we're going to go to in a few moments. And then you also have EBSCO. All of these sources are terrific, and all of them are useful. So if you're looking for an additional material, if your chosen prompt asks you to find an additional source, those are the best databases. Now, another way to find sources would be to click on subjects A through Z, and you should probably do this in your other courses too. Click on L, click on literature, and then they have a number of sources here, number of databases, here, that will help you find sources. All right, so let's go ahead and click on JSTOR. And let's see, which assignment are you going to write on? Let's pretend that you are going to write on, okay, let's say you want to write about The Taming of the Shrew. All right, because that one has a lot of research usually. So let's go to advanced search. Let's go and say Shakespeare. You probably don't even need to say that. And The Taming of the Shrew. And then I'm going to add, all right, let's say feminism. All right, and then I'm going to submit the advanced search. And I have 476 results, but some of it doesn't completely talk about Taming of the Shrew. So let me see if I change it, just so it's completely about Taming of the Shrew. Sometimes if you put it in quotation marks, and then let's put Elizabethan. Okay, let's see if that narrows down the searches for us. All right, So now this is a little more specific and it discusses the work in general. So sometimes if you find too many journal articles, you need to add more specific search terms, okay? So basically, that's about it. But if you do need extra help with me, please contact me through the forums and I'll be more than happy to assist you. I hope all of you have a wonderful week. I hope you enjoy writing the essay, or at least you find it tolerable. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.